I'm gonna work along on this with you. So you are gonna help me to design this enemy, and we're gonna try and implement it. So last week we set up the game manager, so it detects a bunch of enemies, so it knows how many enemies there are. And this week we're gonna try and like those empty game object that we've tagged as enemies. We're gonna try and use them as as like change them from placeholders to actual functioning game objects stuff. So why I have Photoshop open? It doesn't have to be Photoshop. It can be any kind of like writing or scribbling tool. Is because I want to do something called pseudocoding. Have you all heard of the term pseudocoding before? Yep. Nice. Okay. Perfect. So that's great. So everyone should be clear of what I'm trying to do. So we're going to try and pseudocode this first. If anyone doesn't know what pseudocoding is essentially just trying to understand what I want to build in code um, without having to worry about like the syntax. So I don't care about in main like what function am I going to use, where I'm going to put it. I'm going to care more about like the actual functionality of like what I want to build. So we're starting with an enemy. I know I want an enemy. I'm probably going to say that it's going to be 1 by 1 unit high. Now, what do we want to build this? So I haven't created anything. So we have full freedom of what we're going to try and design today and try to build. Obviously, without going too crazy. We're also going to try to not use any inbuilt Unity like nav mesh system or anything like that. We're going to try to build something that's relatively simple, um, meaning like it's pretty much a dumb AI. Um, but while it's dumb, it has some kind of like a semblance of like intelligence, um, and and also like interacts with the player. So this is the hardest part. So so what do we want to do? Do we want to make a patrolling enemy? Do we want to wait an enemy that just sits there and waits? Do we want an enemy that just like you know throws things at the player? What are we thinking? Patrolling? Okay, let's do a patrolling. All right, so let's say we have a platform. Now, let's do an auto patrol because we can do a point to point patrol. But we can do that with NavMesh, so I'm kind of going to leave that for when we cover NavMesh. NavMesh is an inbuilt Unity thing that basically, I think Baravan was using it for the Global Game Jam, and essentially allows you to kind of set points and tell something to, hey, patrol between these points, check, move between these points, whatever you want to do. So instead of doing a node-based point, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make something that is that doesn't necessarily require nodes to function. We're kind of trying to do it so it just works um, by like how I can put it anywhere and it should work. So what I know then is I need to have edge detection. So I need to understand like if this is a platform, I need to have edge detection, and whether that's a raycast or whether that is a trigger. We maybe will use a trigger because it's easier. We could use a raycast, but let's try that first. So we're going to do edge detection. Perfect. And basically what happens is when it hits the edge, it's going to figure out that it's an edge, and then it'll turn. Maybe it will make it turn back. So I probably want to have like two little triggers here. Here they can be spheres or circles or whatever. Probably spheres best. And these two little triggers will be the edge detection triggers. So that's fine. We know we need those. Anything else? Is it going to have health? Is it going to need to be in a special state before we can kill it? Or what do we think? Or is it a one hit kill? That which is the easiest. But special state. Okay, so we'll start with we'll make a state machine then. So we'll have something like so state machine is basically uh, you a kind of like visual way, and there are kind of like visual coding state machines. You can use the animator as a state machine as well. There's ways to finagle it to work like that. But let's do a state machine of our own. So we'll go from patrol, um, and then we know we need a special state in which it's vulnerable, and maybe it's invulnerable otherwise. Let's make the special state. Let's do it something like when it detects the player. So if detects player, if it detects player, we'll do a rush. So it'll rush at the player. And after the rush, we'll do a like cooldown. So like kind of hits a wall or hits a wall or hits an edge. And if it does that, we kind of give it like a little rush cooldown, so it's vulnerable. So vulnerable at that point. Cool. All right. So it can't be hit when it's in a rush, can't be hit when it's in patrol, but when it misses the player, so you kind of want to bait it. You want to bait it to run towards you. If it misses the player, um, what we'll do then is it will yeah, like just kind of like hit the ground or like teeter at the edge and is vulnerable. Um, let's see. We'll give it a that cooldown will have some time. We won't do a coroutine just yet. I think we will do a typical time check. We won't do a coroutine. Could we do a coroutine? No, let's not do a coroutine for today. Let's do a time check. We'll do coroutines later. So we'll do a time check. If it doesn't detect the player, it'll go back into patrol mode. Um, if it detects the player, I guess we'll go right back into rush mode. So if it detects the player, it'll go into rush mode. Not detected. We probably, for the purposes of game design, also don't want it to go from patrol right into rush. We probably want an alert mode in here actually, now that I'm looking at this. So let me reformat this thing. So idle is patrol. If it detects player, and we'll figure out how to detect player in a second. It'll do a alert, so it gives the player like maybe a second or so to kind of like get ready and get out of the way. It'll do a rush. And then when it does a rush, let's make it, if it goes after the rush, it has a cooldown. So there's quite a few states we have to do. And then if it is detecting the player again, it does the alert and does the rush again. If it doesn't detect the player, it will go back to patrol. I think that's enough states. That work? Yeah, I think that. Am I missing anything that anyone can see? Patrol, detect, be alerted, rush. You have a cooldown after which you either detect the player or you go back to patrol. Am I missing anything? So at any state, I think that's okay. So if in rush or cooldown we take damage, we can deal with score and stuff like that later, but like if we take damage, it'll just disappear for now. We'll just kill itself, destroy self. Cool. Now, Does it also do damage to the player only in rush mode? Does it damage the player in any other mode? I think it makes sense to only damage the player in rush mode, right? Yeah, I think so too. Rush mode damages players, and no other mode will damage players. So basically, it's a risk reward thing, and that's fine. Now, let's think about player detection. So we've got edge detection. We know we're going to use triggers. We could also use triggers, which is easy. But we can also do something called a physics overlap. We can double check that. Let me just think. Probably the physics overlap is better. So we could just make like a whole huge trigger, and that is our detection range. As soon as the player is inside the detection range, it's detected, and then we just rush towards that player's direction. So we can do that. That's pretty simple. Um, Maybe let's try to do something called a physics overlap 2D. I'm pretty sure that will work. Let me just pull up the manual. Do do do. And we're checking if a collider falls within a circular area, and we should be able to put that into the update to check if that if whatever the player collider is in that physics 2D area. So it's the same as using a trigger, really. Like it's just a different way. I actually kind of like using a trigger because it you can see the collider easily, but you can also visualize physics 2D overlap circles. But let's try it. Let's see if it works. It's fine either way. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need. I'm gonna say that this unit doesn't jump, so it just stays down here. So, oh, actually, yeah, let's make it stay down there, so it can detect the player when it's above or below. In this case, it'll detect even through a platform because it's not going to use a raycast unless we want to use a raycast. What do we think? Do we want to only use a raycast? Okay, good stuff. So basically, the reason why I'm asking this is if we didn't do this, if I had a platform here and my enemy was here, if I was hiding here, if my overlap circle overlapped, it would keep attacking me through the platform because it can see me. So it just depends how you want to design this player. Um, in our case, it really depends because sometimes in the game you want them to look like they can detect you behind platforms. Sometimes you don't. So in this case, we probably don't. We're just gonna use a raycast instead. So we probably will do a physics overlap anyway to check if the player is in that range. So this will be the range. So player check range, and if the player collider is detected, then we'll do a raycast. We'll do a raycast to check if the player is visible, and if player is visible, we'll set up the rush speed. Okay, so raycast to check if player is visible. So now I got a question. How do y'all think I should set up this state machine that we've designed here? Should it be like a bunch of functions? Should it be a bunch of if statements? What do you think? An enum could work, a function could work. We can also try something because we're making a finite. This is called a finite state machine. Let me just put that finite state machine, meaning that there is a limited amount of states that it can be in, and we've defined those states, right? Like patrolling, detect, player, alert, rush, blah 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 blah. We've defined those. We can do it in functions, not a problem. We can do enum, which is like a whatchamacallit, a I enumerators, which are coroutines. So we can do a coroutine. So it stays in that coroutine before returning. Um, we can also do something called a switch statement. And like, I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do any of these. It is just a like different methods. So here is the differences. Let's have a look here. So we have our physics 2D. We've talked about that already. So our overlap circle. We have a switch statement. This is a switch statement. Switch statement allows you to have different cases. So like in switch, we could call this state machine. Depending on what number the into the state machine is, and this could be controlled in the state machine, it will go to different cases. So I could be like, in the case of, where's my, in the case of rush, sorry, if cooldown, if I see the player, go back to state 3, or 2, sorry. This is state 2, 1, 3, 4, 5. And then 6 is die. So we could do that. If you detect the player, go back to 2. If you don't detect the player, go back to patrol. That's fine. We can do that. We can also do coroutines, which not sure which one we want to do. So coroutine is this, where it has the IE numerator, and it's basically like a function, but as it says here, perfect. It's a function that can pause execution and return control to Unity. So it can basically stop everything that's going on, run whatever's inside it, and then return whatever the result is. And that means you can also do stuff in there, like a time limiter. So you can tell it to wait for a certain amount of seconds and then return. So we can actually do a mix of both. Let me try to see how messy it is just to use a switch statement, just for simplicity. But if not, we will try the coroutine as well. Okay, so let's try that today. Where is my Unity? And then hopefully y'all will be able to do that in the tutorial. Cool, so I need to create an enemy. Create empty, and this will be my enemy game object. And I'm gonna add a child. Let me just grab any old art asset. It will be Alright, let's have little pot of plants attacking. Okay, apply. Enemy is gonna go here. Cool. Why is it so far away? Cool. Oh, is it just huge? I think it's just huge. Oh, what's going on? Hmm. Oh, okay. The child wasn't moving with it. Okay. Enemy is there. Come over here. Perfect. Okay. Let's make it a little bigger visually. So something like that. Let's put that down here. So it's going to patrol from here. And yeah, that'll work. Okay. So we're going to set up its collider first. We will make let's make a box collider 2D. Perfect, that's how it works. And then let's make the two little triggers that will control let's do that. I'm just trying to think now. So if that stops detecting ground, it'll turn the enemy around. But if the enemy collider itself, will make this a trigger. If the enemy collider itself touches something called ground, it will turn around as well. So basically, if these triggers stop detecting ground, or if the enemy hits into something that's tagged as a ground, it will flip around, which means we need to tag the ground as ground. So let's look at the ground. That's the grid. Let me tag that as ground. And that tag this as ground? No, it didn't. Tag as ground too. Perfect. That's got collider on it, right? No, looking at the wrong thing. Yep, cool. So that should work. The grid should be tagged as ground, so I should be able to detect that as a ground. The enemy, let's tag that as an enemy in case we need that tag. I don't know if we do, but let's just do it. So everything here is going to be tagged as enemy. Cool, so that's just sprite, so enemy sprite. Alright, let's make the final. Oh no, did I make all this stuff in? Oh, I did. Dang it. Copy component. And copy the box collider. Basically because I want to separate, as we did with the player. This will be the visuals, this will be the functionality. Okay, so cool. And then we'll make the final circle collider. Oh, where is it? Oh no, they're over there. Why? Is the enemy over here? Oh, it is. Why is the sprite over there? I don't get this thing. Oh, did I move the sprite? I just moved the sprite. Oh, there we go. Okay. Actually, we can just copy the other one and just offset it. Copy component, paste component values, and then we'll just change the offset. Cool. Alright, so that's pretty good. That should be set up. They're both triggers. Let's set up the functionality, and let's go patrolling enemy. Where's my Visual Studio? Okay, so I know that I want two trigger exits. Let me just think about this for a second. Okay, so I want on trigger exit. Exit 2D, so when any of those two little circles, when they exit, we want to reverse our speed. So we need a speed, and we're actually going to add a velocity. So public float move speed, and we'll do move speed we'll make it like negative. Cool. So we'll just like revert what the move speed is. It'll start moving whichever way we want it to move, and then if it loses that collision, and let's put an if function on that actually. So if the collider that it loses, collision dot tag equals to ground. So if it loses the ground, let's revert our speed. Okay, so we know that whatever our movement speed is, whenever it loses that ground detection, which it should, because it's like hovering right in the ground, it will revert direction. Actually, let's put it up here so we can test. Oh, here. Put it up there. It also needs a rigid body 2D because it's gonna need to fall, and it's gonna need to be given velocity. So that should be okay. Let's double check that that's working. Okay, let me give move speed a whatever, just to check whether it works. So move speed is here. Let's give it a 2 speed. So it should be detecting everything. And then if one of them disappears, there we go, -2. So it's going to keep going the other way then until it disappears again, and it goes back to 2. Does that kind of make sense? Well, I'm going the opposite way, but like, so it'll go whichever direction we tell it to. Positive will go right, negative will go left, until one of those triggers stops detecting a ground, and then it'll go negative and tell it to go backwards. And that only happens in an exit, so we know that only happens in an exit. Super simple, super easy. Great stuff. So we have our mood speed. On update, this is probably where we want to do a switch function. So if we want to do a, oh sorry, not in update, in where should we put this? Yeah, we'll use the update to change between the functions, but we'll use, yeah, let's use intelligence function. So let's do a public int FSM for finite state machine. So whatever the FSM is at the time, we'll do void FSM maybe. Can I not call it FSM? Oh, sorry, because it's the same as this. Whoops. So void state machine. Okay, and then we're going to do a switch. So switch, and then based on what FSM is, we're going to do case, how many did we have? We had, so we'll have one default, and we have six, I believe. So defaults patrol, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5. So default plus 5. So we're going to do, okay, I'm actually just going to copy this from the Unity manual because it's already out. So case 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and default. And we're not going to do the prints, obviously. We're going to do actual functions here. Yes, this is being recorded. So in the default mode, well, let's start with default mode. So FSM is equal to 1 in default mode. No, sorry, 0, which is default. So I declared FSM as just an int, so it's just a number, and it stands for finite state machine. I can call it whatever I want, and just depending on what number FSM is on, it'll do all these different things. So no worries. So I'm doing 0 at the start, so I'm setting it default to 0. So at default, let's just give it our move speed. Like, so we have our move speed. We'll set that in the inspector. And if nothing happens, it's just going to move around. Just do nothing, you know. Just give it our own little movements. So let's try this. So default, we will get our rigid body. So we'll do a game object dot get component of type rigid body to be. Don't care what it's called. Dot set velocity. Dot velocity is equal to, yeah, we can get it and set it. So it's equal to, and it will be move speed. And because move speed will be changed, oh, it needs to be a vector 2. Sorry, so I need to do u vector 2. I always forget about that because it's x and y. So it'll be move speed, and we don't have a jump, so we're going to do nothing there. So we'll just copy all of this. Should we do velocity? Because I don't want to give it a velocity. The thing is, if I give it a velocity of whatever the current velocity is, it may not fall because I'm setting that. Let's try it. Just, well, we don't need it to fall anyway. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see if that works. So that should hopefully patrol nicely left and right. It's not patrolling. Did I not give it a speed? No, it's going to move speed. FSM is 0. Oh, okay, I haven't declared, sorry. So I have FSM here, the state machine's there, but it's never called. So I have this void state machine function, but it's never called. Actually, can I put that in update? Let's see. If I can just dump that in update, will it work? Because that would be much easier. Don't have to call it each time. Cool, there we go. Pops there, pops left. Lovely, super easy. Nice and easy. Cool. Speed's a bit fast. Let's give it speed 1. Okay, great stuff. So we don't need this function. We're just going to put that in update. So it'll just keep running on update. We may need to put in parameters in there to check, like for time. So we may have to have an if statement in there to check for time. But let's worry about that. So that's fine. Now, what did we say was the parameters for moving detect player? So the parameter to detect a player, we were going to make a physics overlap circle. If the physics overlap circle detected a player, we would then try to draw a raycast to the player. If the raycast found the player, then we would move to the alert state, or sorry, to the alert state. So this whole detect player stage is actually not in the state machine because we don't. This is going to run constantly. So we actually don't need all these states, so we're going to do one less case. Hopefully that makes sense. Because the detection is always going to be running, it never goes to a detect player state. It's just if it detects player. So I shouldn't put this as a state. This should be a condition. So I'm just going to take away the box. So it's not a state. It's just if this happens. So if that condition happens, it'll go to the alert state, and then and then it'll go to the rush state, and it'll go to cooldown, blah blah blah. But the actual detection is not a state; it's just a condition that controls when it runs to the other states. So let's have a look at that. We are now going to set up the detection. So detection should run. Let's run it before the state, so it happens before the state, so we can tell it to as priority every frame if it detects a player. And we were going to do a physics overlap circle. So let me have a look at the notes. Here we go. So public static blah 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 physics overlap circle, and we get our results. So public static we don't need a layer mass, we don't need a min depth and a z depth, we just need the point and the radius, how far it goes. Don't think we need anything else. Yeah, we just need the point, the start point and the radius. Okay. And it returns a collider 2D, which is exactly what we want. Okay. Okay, let's try that. So, physics 2D dot overlap circle, and maybe let's define the circle radius in public inspect, so we can tweak it to tweak its range. So let's try that. So public overlap circle. Wait, I forgot to read that. Dot overlap circle. It is, yeah. So just a point and a radius. Cool. So my point is easy. My point is my game object dot transform dot position. That's my point. Does that work? Does that give me a... Okay, and we just need the radius. So radius is public float detection radius. And we'll put that in there. Detection radius. Cool. And that'll return me a collider 2D. Hopefully. Don't need a layer mask, and we don't need anything else. Okay. Let's make that an if statement as well. So basically, if you detect okay. Okay, it's going to give me a list, which is kind of annoying. Okay, maybe I don't want that. So I was trying to get a list of all. I just want whatever tag. So if that tag is equal to player, let us set it to go to, what do we want it to go to? Alert mode. Yeah. As long as it's not in any of the other modes, it will go to alert mode. But for now, let's just set it to go to alert mode. And that will be case 1. And for now, let's make it just print alert. And we'll need another condition on this, because otherwise, as like forever when it's detecting the player, it'll go to state 1. But for now, let's just check if this works. And this should be, yeah, detection radius should be physics 2D, enemies there. Where's my detect radius? Cool. Let's make that 4. Don't know how long that is, but let's find out. Let's check the console. Oh yeah, it is alerted. Cool. So it does detect, and it's gone to state 1. You see it stop moving. Let's set it to go back to. Let's do it else if. So we probably don't want it to go to that state. We just want it to say a detected bool or something. Else if oops. And we'll go back to default. So hopefully this works. Yeah, it's gone back to normal, and then when I come back, it gets angry again, so it's alerted, and I run away, goes back to patrolling. Pretty cool. Gets annoyed. That range is a bit far. Is it? Should it detect from this far? That's pretty okay, actually. What do you think? Shorter? Maybe a little shorter. Let's set it to 3 radius. Cool. Alright, so there we go. That's working. It is detecting. Cool, yeah, it doesn't detect me yet. Ugh, there we go. Detects me when I'm there. Cool, and then now we need to do the so I just did this as a test. I actually don't want this. I need to do the I need to do the raycast. So I need to detect, and then I'll do the raycast, and if I get the raycast, then it sets it to alerted. Okay. So I actually need to look up Raycast because I always have problems with Raycast. So Raycast. And we do have issues with physics 2D Raycast sometimes as well. So here's a Raycast 2D. So we do a Raycast 2D. Okay. So we do a Raycast 2D. Yeah, let's do Raycast hit 2D. And it was gonna be, what was it? Call it a name. So ray hit equals to, why can't I? That works, okay. Physics2d.raycast. Raycast, and I needed my 2 positions. Is that right? I needed my start position and my end position. Yeah. Okay, cool. And we don't really need to give it a distance as well, because it's only going to do this if the player is in range. If it's not in range, it won't do it. So we already have a range based on the overlap. Okay, so we need our start position, which is just my position. So just this yoke. And then we have the all of this dot transform dot position. So it's going to go from me to whatever the overlap circle detected. Cool. I think that should work. I don't know if I'm being redundant here. Maybe I should assign it to something, but it's okay. All right. And then if it hits. So ray hit is never used. Yeah. So if. So we're nesting another one. So if ray hit dot. Can I just do dot tag? Or do I have to go game object? This is the part where I sometimes get confused. So ray hit dot collider. Okay. There we go. Dot game object dot tag equals to player. Then let's print I see you. And then we can go to the alert. Print I see you. And then we'll go to FSM is equal to 1. And then if nothing happens, if it doesn't detect the player, doesn't do anything, we can set it to go back to idle. But let's leave that for now. Let's double check how that works. So it should still show me alert when I'm clear. Should still show me alert when I'm in range, but it won't detect me. Is that showing me alert? It's not showing me alert. Oh no, it won't, because alert's in the thing. So I'm silly. Alert's in the FSM. So let's print alert. So this is print I am in alert state. And here we print if it detects something. We print player nearby. Player nearby. Cool. That makes more sense. So it should be able to detect, and let me set it back to like 3 point. Let me set it to 4 just for testing, so it's easier. I can tweak that later. Okay, player nearby, great stuff. Does its own stuff. Go near. Player nearby, great. Now let's see if I can get up there. Dang it. Why did I make my own game so hard? Okay. Let's just start the player. You go there. And enemy, you come down here. You patrol there. Great stuff, much easier. Oh no, a player nearby. Okay, but can it see me? No. Oh, it's doing a thing. It's just bouncing on the thing. I don't think it detects me, so I've got a problem with the problem in the physics overlap section. Let's turn off that freeze rotation. Okay, so let's have a look back at the script. So I'm having a problem here because it's not, so it's detecting me, but the Raycast, and this is why Raycast annoy me so much. It's not detecting the player. And I wonder why it's not. If you all want, we can take like a little 10-minute break and I'll try and figure this out by the time you come back. Do you like that? Okay, cool. I'm just going to pause the recording here. Cool. So I'm just going to, I'm trying this where I'm trying to find the game object at the start with player. So each of the enemies will know where the player is. And then when it detects, hopefully, oh, no, it's not detecting. Oh, no, it is detecting. But it's still not doing the raycast. So my problem is with the raycast. So it is detecting with the overlap, but the raycast isn't working. And this is something that annoys me about raycast. They almost never work. Always have an issue. Goes from me. Okay. No, it's just going to give me results. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure why it's not detecting. Everything looks fine. Raycasting, I don't have any errors. It's asking me for... I'm raycasting towards the other thing. From myself to the player. And then am I hitting? I'm using physics 2D, I'm using raycast hit 2D. I am not quite sure why this is not working. Let's have a look. Let me even just check whether it's hitting anything. Okay, so it did hit something. But only when I walk right up to it. No, it's still hitting me. Okay, so that's weird, because it's working, and it is hitting. It's hitting something, but it's obviously just not hitting, not moving to the next part. So it is hitting the ray hit, but it's not checking this one correctly. Why is that? Why is this part not working? So it is hitting. Oh, I forgot to check what it's hitting. print object, so it knows it's hitting something but it doesn't say what it's hitting. And I don't know whether it's hitting the player. It doesn't seem to be hitting the player because it's never going to ICU. Let's just check whether we can just go without checking the tag. No, it doesn't make sense. So as long as it hits something, let's see whether it even does anything. Don't care whether I'm hitting the player or not, as long as that Raycast hits something. Okay, so that works. So as long as it hits something, it goes to alert state. So my problem is that whatever it is detecting, it is for some reason, this is all working. It is for some reason just not realizing or not checking. The Raycast is on the enemy, because I'm on the enemy script. So this should be firing from the enemy, so myself, small g game object, to the player, and I kind of wanted to say as long as you hit something that is not that is tagged as the player, move to that stage. So it is detecting, it is firing, it's hitting something, it's hitting a collider. I just don't know whether it's I don't know why it isn't able to check. Collider dot tag player. So this should be like, it should be checking whether that collider is a player, because this is the whole point we're doing this. I'm trying to make it so if it tries to shoot a Raycast at the player but doesn't detect the player, it should. Nope, doesn't work. Is it because is it detecting itself? Let me test something. Let me make a little create empty, and this will just be my Raycast shooter. This is not correct. I shouldn't do this, but let's try. So Raycast start pause. I wonder, is it detecting its own collider or something like that? In which case I need to tell it to ignore its own collider, which is so annoying. But let's try this. So public transform Raycast. Okay, and then we'll go from the transforms. I don't need this. Raycast start pause dot position. So it should fire from that position. I just need to assign it in the inspector. And let's see whether that's the problem. Maybe it's detecting its own collider and therefore being blocked. I'm not sure. Raycast start pause. Oops, there we go. So start from there. Fire your Raycast from there. It's almost like that's the eyes. Oh, now reference exception. What are we getting? If Ray hit the collider dot time. Okay, so that seems to be better. Huh. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Interesting. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, collider 2D. The collider hit by the ray. Yeah. And the ray hit is this ray. Why is this not working? Oh. Very weird, this. Maybe we should swap from Raycast and... No, I need the Raycast. I need to detect the distance. Sorry, the whether it can see or not. Player nearby is fine, but the Raycast is not raycasting. Oh, it is. Oh, now it's working. Okay. Okay. Grant. Right, so it basically, I think that was the problem. It was not, it was possibly detecting its own collider, which is a problem. So because I put it up there, so it's probably still detecting its own collider here. But if I jump, yeah, it now goes to alert state because it's not detecting its, so because I have the Raycast position up there, it's probably detecting something else. Okay, that's annoying. So we may have to set the Raycast to ignore all other layers except the player. Let's see if we can do that. So the player, I've set it on the player layer. So this is a physics layer, not a tag layer. User layer 3. So it's layer 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, yeah. Or is it 3? I think it's 3. Let's say, so that's on 3. So in the Raycast, I should have an overlap. Distance will be let's fire it at the radius distance. Distance will be detection radius, and the layer. Do I have a layer? 3. Layer mask 3. I think 3 is correct. Or maybe I can just define it. It's called player, I think. Can I do that? No, I have to define it as an int. That's annoying. Okay, layer 3. Okay, so hopefully this only detects on layer 3 now, which is my player layer. See if that works. No, it doesn't work again. Maybe it's the wrong layer, maybe it's 4. I need to do it. Shouldn't be, it should be 3. It's listed as 3. Oh, Raycast. How I despise you. So this should be 3. This should be the... Let me just double check. Detection radius to... Yeah, int layer mask. Yep. Or is it mask everything except for 3? No, it's... Let me try something else. Player layer. So instead of this, let's use the master hit. Okay. So find the player mask and then use that as the detection. Please work. Let's try this. No. That's very annoying. Oh, it did now. What's going on? It seems very, not very robust. It is working. It's just not very robust. I don't really understand this. What the problem is. Is it update? Do I have any problem with it? Do. Let's go back to FSM equals to 0. So basically if the player disappears, it'll go back to idle. I don't have any timer tags in there at the moment. I just wanna check if this works. Cool. So it does work, but it doesn't detect very well. It only detects sometimes. Strange. Very strange. Now it's not detecting at all. Once I stop using the Raycast start pause. This is really weird. Blah, blah, blah. And we want the sorry, I'm just double checking whether it's working, and I also don't know why it's only working sometimes. You're detected, yes. Then it's not going to detect me until I jump over. Okay, it only detects when I jump over. It seems to be conflicting with its own self, which it shouldn't be. Enemy is on the default layer, but I've told it to only care. You're going back to work. I'm back here. You're not scared till I jump over you and then you detect me. Yeah, so it really seems to be detecting itself for some reason. Let me put that start pause here. So it should only detect me from the left hand side now, if my theory is accurate. Hello? Nope, doesn't even. It It detects me when I'm jumping. Why? Okay, you don't detect me anymore. I'm coming back. You know I'm there, but you can't detect me. If I jump over here, do you detect me? No. And it's only when I jump? Yeah, only when I jump. Let me check whether this is something to do with the colliders, sorry, the rigid bodies, whether they are collision detection. Let's do them continuous. And the enemy, let's do the same. Just don't know whether it's something that the rigid bodies are not continuously detecting. If it is just that, I'll be quite annoyed. Oh, it is just that. Seriously? Nope. Still again. Okay, cool. So I'm out of range. I'll go back in range. Oop. Okay, so I have to be moving for it to work, even though I set it to continuous. Continuous. Did I? Continuous, yeah. Sleeping mode. Let's do never sleep. And same with that one, never sleep. Okay. Don't think that's going to make a huge difference, but let's see. So it might be sleeping to save calculation time. Am I detected? Not at all. Yes. And then I'm alert. So that's much better. Still not good, but it's much better. Okay. Run away. Back to patrolling. And now, much better. But again, we still have that problem that it's line of sight and it can't see behind it. Which could be okay if we were doing something like the enemy only looks one direction. Like, so it would flip and it would have to flip to actually see the other direction. So you could creep up on it, sort of thing. That actually would work. I'm just annoyed that it's doing that because it is supposed to ignore its own layer. So that's what I did here. I did like a layer mask. So I'm just defining a layer mask. And I'm telling it hit only this mask. And whatever the player mask is, so layer mask.getMask of the string player, that'll be the mask we want to hit. And then in the Raycast, I can tell it like within this radius, hit this mask. Question is, why does it still hit? Even though I've told it to mask itself, why does it still hit myself? Let me try something else and just see if this works, okay? So it's a layer mask to hit. Let me do a public layer mask to hit. What was it? Mask big T hit. Okay. Does that give me a drop down? Oh, turn that off. So my mask to hit on my player. Oh, sorry, on my enemy. Okay, let's hit the player and nothing else. Okay, so would that work? Oops. Okay, it's an alert state, but it hasn't. Oh, it just took a while. Okay, now let's try from the other direction. Can I be detected from the other direction? Nope. Still detecting itself for some reason. So the Raycast is still colliding with itself. So I think what might be happening is the Raycast generally gives me a whole list of of colliders that it passes through, and it might, yeah, it might be returning the first collider, which is itself. The thing is that it shouldn't, because I've told it to mask everything else, because it should only hit that player mask. So I'm not quite sure why it is returning stuff, other stuff. I don't really get that. Strange. Okay, I'll tell you what, peeps. If you want to follow up to where I have, I will go away and try and figure out this issue, because I don't feel like spending 20 minutes with you trying to figure out this is useful. But what I can do is I can upload the YouTube video for today, and you can try to get to at least this stage where I am right now, where there's a player, where it's moving around, where it does have the state set up, and it can detect a player, and it can find a raycast at least from one position to the player. But I'll put that video up now. I think that's probably the best use of my time instead of me trying to figure this out while you're here. But I will work on this now, and if I get a solution, I'll post it in the chat, and then next week we can complete up the rest of the enemy. Sound good? I will